Okay, here we go. We're going to finish up 1-6. Okay, I put D because this is the fourth part of this lesson, all right, that I've taught. So let's do a circle. We talked about circles the other day. And let's put a circle right here. If I could grab the end of it and move it around. There we go. So let's describe some of the things about a circle. We've already talked about the circumference of a circle, but there's a lot of things that we didn't talk about. We did talk about the diameter. We talked about the radius, all right? So let's actually do that one more time. And where's my marker? Because I got people talking like crazy after I gave you a big speech about not talking. I'll just use my pen right here, and here's a piece of paper right here. All right, so... All right, Nadir, you're the first one. Congratulations. All right. I'll let you know if I put your name down or not. So, Nadir, you're the first one. No, you cannot have pencil because you should come prepared with a pencil. So that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do stuff in here. All right, we talked about perimeter. We talked about some other things. Let's do this first. This should be review, but we're going to write it down anyway. All right, this thing right here has a specific name. What do we call this thing right here, this whole entire thing? Rosalind, what is that? That's the diameter, okay? So that's the diameter of the circle. Remember, it hits at two places on the circle. It hits right here and it hits right here, and it has to go. Now, it's very important because we're going to do another thing that hits two places on the circle, but the diameter has to go through what? Through the center of the circle. We don't call it the middle. I know what you're talking about when you say middle, but we don't call it the middle. We call it the center of the circle. So that's important right there. I don't think, did we talk about how to, the notation for a circle? I don't think we did in here. So if I put like a capital A right here, do you see that? That's that point in the center. That's the center right there. If I wanted to name this circle, I name it by the center of the circle. I don't use 2 points, 3 points. I use 1 point, and that point is the center of the circle. So if I put an A right here next to that dot, that point at the center, I would call this circle A. But I don't write the word circle. I actually do it like this. I do a circle, and then I put a little dot in the middle. That is the notation for circle. Go ahead. And I would call it circle A. So you only use one letter, just one letter to name a circle. But you got to put the symbol. See that thing right there? That is the symbol or the notation, okay, for a circle. So it's got to be that. You got to have that little notation right there. That would be circle A. All right, there's another thing. Let's do this in a different color so it stands out a little bit. Let's do it in this pink color that we talked about. What if I start at the center, and let's do this, and I go right here? That would be called a radius. Okay, so that one right there is called the radius. Remember, it has an endpoint on the circle, and it has an endpoint, it has an endpoint on the center of the circle, and it has an endpoint on the circle. Okay, that would be a radius. Tell me something about the radius and the diameter. What's the relationship between a radius and a diameter, Makai? They're both the same? The radius and the diameter are the same? No, wait, give him a chance. Very good. The radius is half of the diameter, or what were you going to say earlier, Makai? The diameter is twice the radius. Very good. Okay? So you could look at it either way. All right, everybody good with that? All right, now I think that's pretty much what we talked about so far on a circle. Let's do a little bit more. All right, just kind of definitions, just words. What, Wayne? Is it a question about what I'm teaching? If it's not, I'm going to write your name down. Is it about what I'm teaching? Is it about what I'm teaching? Okay, go ahead and ask the question. I'll decide.
So, what's that sign when you go, when you try to, like, see the SMR, right, but it's not line? You press A, B, and it's like a little art. What's that?
Okay, we haven't got to that yet, and we will get to it, actually. Okay, we will get to it. That is a good question, so I won't write your name down on that one. All right, so we are going to do that in just a couple minutes here, okay? So right now, look at this yellow one right there. Now, is that a diameter? Look, it hits at one point on the circle and it hits at another point on the circle. I thought that's what the diameter does. No, but the yellow one doesn't go through what? It doesn't go through the center. So I can't call it a diameter. Okay? We call it, it's not a radius. Because remember, the radius, listen, it's a good question. Let me answer it. Listen. So the radius has to hit the center. It's got to start at the center. The end point of the radius is at the center. Is the end point of this yellow line right here at the center? It's not. Okay? It ends on the circle here, on the circle here. We call that a chord. C-H-O-R-D. We call it a chord. All right? Now, is the diameter a chord? Well, what does a chord do? A chord is a line segment that ends at both endpoints on the circle. Does the diameter end on the circle? Sure. Right, but is it still a chord, though? Yeah, it just happens to be a chord that goes through the center. Okay? The radius doesn't go all the way through. Okay, so a chord has to hit two parts or two ends of the circle. Are you listening? The chord, on a chord, the end point of a chord has to be on the circle at one point and has to be on the circle at the other point. Is a radius a chord? It's a good question that you had. It's not a chord because the end point doesn't lie on the circle. It lies on the center, but that's not on the circle. All the stuff in here is in the circle. Remember we talked about that yesterday? All the stuff out here is outside the circle or the exterior. So there's a difference between a radius and a chord. All right? So this is a chord. Again, these are words that we're going to use later on. I'm not just learning them just for the sake to learn them. I'm learning them because we're going to use these words. I promise you. I know exactly what they're going to be doing when they talk about chords. And you're going to need to know what a chord is. That's what it is. All right? Now what we're going to do is get to what Wayne asked about. What if I put a point here and a point here, and I didn't draw a straight line that connects them, but what if I did this? What if I went along the circle? Okay? If I could, and it's a little wiggly, but you get the idea. Okay? So I started here, and let's put some letters in here. Let's do a different color. So what if I put a point right here, a point right here, and I call this CD? Now look, this is not a straight line now. It's not a line segment, is it? No. It goes along the circle, so it's curved, isn't it? Okay? Or we call this an arc. Okay? So it's part of the circumference, right? It's just a little chunk, a little piece of the circumference. So this right here is a little piece of the circumference. All right? We call this an arc. And the way that we name an arc is this. You start at one end of it, go to the other end of it. You got a C and you got a D. So it doesn't matter what order you put it in. Okay, I could go DC if I wanted to, just like a lot of things that we've done in here. But here's the symbol, okay, for the arc. We put this little like cap on top of it. That's the arc. Nadir, question? Well, if I give you this is C and this is D, then you have to use C and D. I could give you any letters, okay, but on this one, I'm still answering his question. So if they give you a C and a D, you have to call it CD, all right? All right, what's your question? Like this, like what I just did. You put it, it's curved, okay? It's a curve, okay? It's kind of like a cap, all right? It's a curve. It's not a straight line. Doesn't have arrows on it, okay? I probably could have made it a little bit more like an arc, like that, okay? That might look a little bit better than that does, but that's the idea, all right? So you just put a little arc, and that means arc CD. But we're going to do a little bit more with this. Wayne, I'm writing your name down. Because you just won't stop. You may put it, I'll put marks next to it, and so you can get an ASD every single time. Okay, good question. I didn't talk about that, and I should have. Okay, what kind of shape, I guess, for lack of a better word, is a chord. It's a what? It's straight, yeah, but it's a line segment. That's what I was getting at, okay? It's a line segment. So if this was X and this was Y, what would I call this chord right there? I would just call it line segment. A chord is a straight, okay? So I would call this line segment XY, all right? Or I could call it line segment YX, okay? But it is a line segment because it starts and it stops. It is not a line. Don't put arrows on here, okay? Everybody with me on that? But an arc goes around the circle. It's not a straight line, okay? This is not chord CD. Chord CD would be a straight line that connects from C to D. It's not what I have here. This goes around the circle, along the circle. It's supposed to be smooth. It's a little bit wiggly right there just because my hand was a little shaky right there. But anyway, that's what it is. All right, that's an arc. Let me show you a couple other things. I don't even think they talk about this in here, but I'm going to right now. So I'll tell you what, let's clean this circle up a little bit. I'm just going to copy that. Let's move this out of the way a little bit, put another one right there. And I'm going to put, let's go in a different color. Let's put 3 points. Let's put one here, and one here, okay? And let's just call it P, Q, R. Let's stop with the tapping of the pencils, please. So look at arc PQ, all right? Just look at it. I'm not going to draw it, but I'm not going to trace over it. But if I go from P to Q, that would be that arc right there. How do I know, quickly? Okay. Is that good? All right. So, no, it's arc PQ. Okay, it's arc PQ. So I'm going from here. I'm traveling around to here. But listen to this. Everybody look up here. Watch this. How do I know I'm not talking about arc PQ from here all the way down to here? Do you see the difference? Look, if I just said arc PQ, how do you know I'm going the shortest way from P to Q? How do you know I'm not talking about from P all the way from R to Q? You don't, do you? Okay? Until now, because we call this a minor arc. Anytime you have a minor arc, that means it's less than half the circle. Okay? Does PQ does it look like it's less than half the circle? Sure, because if I went from P all the way through the center to here, that would be half the circle, wouldn't it? Okay? From here to here would be less than half the circle, or less than how many degrees? How many degrees is half a circle? 180 degrees, okay? So a minor arc would always be less than 180 degrees, okay? So I would not be talking about this arc from here, from P all the way through R, all the way up to Q. I would not be talking about that arc. So when I only use 2 letters, that means it's a minor arc. Are you following what I'm saying or not? Okay. So let me just, again, might be a little shaky right here, but you get the idea. So that right there is less than half the circle. It's less than 180 degrees. So that would be a minor arc. So that means that would be PQ. What about the other arc, though? What about from here all the way, all the way to there? What about that thing right there from P to Q, but it's the yellow one? It's more than 180 degrees, right? Okay, so I can't just say PQ because PQ means this one right there. Shaheen, what do you think? No. So you start from P. It went through another point right here at R, so I'm going to put a R, and then it ends at Q. No, you just stay right there. This right here is called a major arc. All right, just stay in the office then. Go. Because you should have gone before you came here, okay? You were messing around. You were late, okay? You were laying on the floor and all that stuff when I came in here, when I was standing there, and you're just messing around. So I don't believe you. I'm telling you right now, I don't believe it's an emergency, but I'm letting you go, all right? I'll take your word for it, but I still don't believe you. You can go to the bathroom, go, but just stay in the office the rest of the time, okay? Well, go. I'm letting you go. If it's that bad, you'd be out the door by now. I said that you could go. Go. Let's continue. I should edit all that stuff out. I can't believe I'm letting people watch this on YouTube. This is crazy. So let's take a look at this. This major arc right here, we're going to use 3 letters. How do you know it's a major arc? Because it goes more than what? Half of the circle. More than 180 degrees. More than half of the circle. So if it goes more than half of the circle, you have to use 3 points. Okay? R has to be somewhere in the middle. I can't just say arc PQ because I don't know if I'm just talking about this one or I'm talking about arc PQ here. But the yellow one would be PRQ. The red one would just be PQ. Or you could go the other way. You could say QP or you could say QRP. Obviously, that shouldn't make any difference. Go ahead. Okay, that's a good question. Like right there? Okay, let's do this in a different color. So what about that one? And we'll just call this S. All right? You don't have to write the word minor or major arc. This tells you right there. When you have 2 letters, that automatically tells you it's a minor arc. Okay? When there's 2 letters. When there's 3 letters, that automatically tells you it's a major arc. Okay? So you don't have to write the word major or minor. This right here tells you what it is. Then you just use 3. You just use the endpoints. Like if I had, I got an S right there. I could name that yellow one. I could name it arc PRQ, or I could call it PSQ if I wanted to. All right? It would still be the same exact arc. All right? Because it ends at P and Q, and this point is just some point in between them. Okay? So somebody asked me about this diameter that goes through here. What would you call that? Because that's not more than 180, so it's not a major arc, and it's not less than 180. It's not a minor arc. What do we call that? What do you think it is? What's half a circle? Well, the line itself is a diameter. You're right, but the arc that it makes, when you take half of a circle, the arc that it makes, what? Okay. Go. If you have a circle and it's half of the circle, what do we call half of a circle? Let me do this in blue. Oops. Let me do it thicker. Okay, what if we did this right here? Football, you can go. That clock's a little slow. 1:30, right? Okay. So look at this blue one right here. That makes up half of the circle, doesn't it? So we don't call it a minor arc because a minor arc is less than a half a circle. We don't call it a major arc because it's more than half a circle. What do we call half of a circle? We don't call it a half circle. Any ideas? We call it a semicircle. You're just throwing words out. We already talked about the radius. The radius goes from the center to a point. This blue thing is not even close to a radius because it's a curve, first of all, so it's not a radius. It's not a radius. It's called a semicircle. And we also use 3 points for that as well. So this blue one, and we don't even have a... Go.
I love you, Jake.
John, stop. You're making it worse. I got to deal with all that crap, and I got to deal with you doing that stuff, okay? So this thing right here, this semicircle right here, I don't believe they give any kind of a symbol for it at all. I can't even remember. I don't think they do. I think they would just write semicircle, what, P, if that blue one, how would I name that blue one? Semicircle P what? P, Q, S, the blue one. Because what if I just said PS? I don't know if I'm talking about this one, or I could be talking what? About this one right here, couldn't I? You see that? So I don't know which one. Now, they're the same degrees, right? They're still half a circle, but this one goes this way, this one goes this way. They're two completely different semicircles, okay? So I would just call it semicircle. Just write that word down, semicircle, PQS, all right? I don't think so, because I don't think they cover this in the book. I'm just thinking of what I've taught in the past, and I can't remember if there's a symbol for that. I don't think there is. I just think they would write the word semicircle in front of it and just put PQS after it, okay? All right, so that's enough of that. Let me do a quarter of, right? Is that when we're out of here? Yeah. Let's do an example. And then we will, well, 2 examples will be finished. So this is example 5. It can be found in the book. I don't know what page it's on, but here is what we're trying to find. They give you a circle, so let me draw a circle here. Okay, center's about right there. Let's draw a radius about right there. And what do they tell you? They tell you that the circumference is 10 centimeters. What does that mean? It means the distance around the circle. They measured it, it's 10 centimeters, okay? They're going to ask you a couple things. Here's what they ask you. This is part A. It's part A, part B, right? It says find the radius of the circle. So that would be R. That's what we're trying to find. We're trying to find what is the radius of this circle, okay? Well, we need a formula. Do you remember the formulas we learned yesterday? That has circumference and radius in it. Look in your notes. It's probably just got to flip back a page. It might even be on the page you're writing on right now. Say it. 2 pi r. Right. The circumference is equal to 2 pi r. All right. That's the circumference of a circle. What are they asking you to find? The radius. All right. So let's put some numbers in here and find the radius. So what do we know the circumference? Yeah, we do. What is it? It's 10. They told you right here. See that? I wrote it right there. Circumference is 10. So I put a 10 equals, and then 2 and pi and what? R, because I don't know what the R is, do I? So now I have to do some algebra. Do you remember algebra? I got to get R by itself. How do I get R by itself? I look to see what that 2 and that pi are doing. What's that 2 and pi doing to that R? It's multiplying. How do I get rid of something that's being multiplied? I divide. So I come over here and I divide by 2 pi. Come over here and divide by 2 pi. So watch, the 2 pi's cancel. So R is equal to 10 over what? 2 pi. All right? You could say 5 over pi, couldn't you? 10 over 2 is 5. No. So now's the time for a calculator, okay? So I just happen to have a calculator right here. Isn't that cool? Look at that. Okay. I think I have, oh, I know it. I can't use this pen. I don't know why. It doesn't work, so I have to use the mouse pad for this. So how do we do this? Well, I go 10 divided by, it's not times, it's 10 divided by, right? And then 2 pi. I'm going to put 2 times, what's pi? What number do we use for pi? 3.14. Now listen, I do not, listen carefully, because you're going to ask me this on a quiz. So you do not use the whole entire pi button that the calculator gives you, because there's a pi button right there, and you can click it, and you get this big old long 3.14559, blah, blah, blah. Just use, listen, just use 3.14. Everybody got it? Okay. And then you plug all that in, and I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a parentheses. I should have done that earlier, just to be careful, because sometimes the calculators are really weird. So I'm going to put 2 times, where's the times? Pi 3.14, 3.14 Was that it? Just 2 times 3.14? What did I have? Yeah. Okay. And then equals, and I get that number right there. We're going to round it to 2 decimal places. Since pi 3.14, the 1/4 is only 2 decimal places, we're going to round our answer to 2 decimal places. Okay? So what would that be? 1.59. What does that 2 do to that 9? Anything?
Doesn't it make it to a 10?
Does it? A 2?
Oh,
No.
It makes it stay normal.
It only rounds it up when it's a what?
Above 5.
When it's 5 or above. Okay, when it's 5 or above. Is 2 5 or above? No. So do we round that 9? No. So we just keep it 1 point what? Right. So it's 1.59. Okay? That's the radius. All right? Let's move this over here. Okay? That's the radius of this circle right here. It's 1.59 what?
Something.
What's the something? It's right in front of you. Look at it. It's 10 what? The circumference was 10 what? Centimeters. So what's the radius going to be? It's going to be in centimeters. All right? Look, they give this to you in centimeters, so you write the radius in centimeters. Okay? So that is the radius right there. Make sure you put centimeters in your answer. One more and we'll be finished with this example. Okay? This is a completely different question. Oops. Let's try this. That's better. All right. It says find the circumference. All right. It says find, I'll just put C. All right. Find the circumference. And it says of a water tower. Okay. A water tower is round, right? You've seen these big water towers in towns, right? Yeah. Sometimes they're like circular. Sometimes they're just a cylinder, right, that goes up. But we're going to find the circumference if the tower measures 60 feet across. What does that mean? 60 feet. What does 60 feet across mean when you're talking about a water tower? It's round. Across is the diameter, right? To go all the way across, it wouldn't be the radius, because what if you only went halfway? Is that all the way across? No. You go from one end to the other. That's across, okay? And so it's 60 feet across, and we're trying to find the circumference. So what is this? This is the what? The diameter. But our equation, remember what our equation is? 2 pi r. Our equation has radius in it, but they give you the diameter. But we got to figure out what the radius is. What is the radius if the diameter is 60? It's 30, right? Because the diameter is all the way across. The radius is only what? Halfway across, okay? So if 60 is all the way across, what's halfway across? 30 feet. Now, it's pretty simple, okay? It says find the circumference. So C equals 2 pi, and we just figured out what the radius was, 30, right? C equals, let's do a quick math. What's 2 times 30? 60 pi. So now what do? I put 60, 60, right, times 3 point, it's hard to do with a mouse pad quickly, 3.14, and I hit enter, and there it is, 188.4. So the circumference is, I don't know, this does weird things sometimes, 188.4. Now, it did said 60 feet across, so our circumference is going to be in what? It's going to be in feet. Make sure you put the units, okay? It doesn't make any sense if you don't put the units. So that's how you find the circumference. So this is what we can do with a circle right now. We'll be doing stuff later on in the book with area. We'll talk about a sphere. We'll do a bunch of different things. But for right now, it's pretty basic, and it's just circumference, radius, diameter. Okay, we good with that? Okay. All right, so what did I assign? Up to 31 to 43, is that what I did? Okay, I'm going to add a little more. Okay, I'm going to add a little more. So it's still section 1-6, and you're going to add this to your homework. So it's page 37, and we're going to do 44 to 53. I didn't assign that much, did I? Okay, so here's your new part of your assignment. Okay, I'm adding this to 1-6. All right, so if you've done up to 43 up to this point, add this to it. 44 to 53, it's page 37, and we're calling it section 1-6. So this is the final homework for section 1-6. Okay? What is it? Yeah, turn. Everybody good? Okay. Let me I'm going to stop recording, but we're going to do a quick little review for the quiz.